Hi, and happy New Year, happy 2024. I asked on my platforms the other day how people felt that their diversity defined them, whether it defined you or whether it's just part of who you are. And it's been quite interesting reading some of the responses from people. And one of the things really I wanted to do was just to touch upon my journey into gaining my diversity, my neurodiverse diagnosis. And it's a very interesting concept, really. And I have been mulling over it myself as I'm an advocate for self reflection and reflective practice and the ability to be objective and yeah, my journey basically. And, I think when I look back at how my life panned out prior to gaining a diagnosis, it was hard. I had a really, really tough time growing up through school, through my early adulthood. I battled eating disorders. I struggled work wise with my sense of self, my sense of self worth. And I felt that my future looked incredibly bleak. And when my children started to grow up and get older, and I definitely recognized that they were diverse in some capacity, and going through the process of completing all the paperwork for them, I started to realize that a lot of what I was filling in resonated so much with me, which is then how it led me to my own journey to getting diagnosed. Now, a lot of people were questioning whether there was any point in me getting a diagnosis, being as I'd lived the way that I had for so long. And I went through that process for two reasons. Firstly, I wanted to know who I was. And I wanted to be able to kind of offer an example to my children growing up that relatability in a sense. There's no shame. I don't care whether I've even got three arms. I have no concerns about who I am and what I am. And actually, in a sense, the label is irrelevant. It was more for the fact that I just wanted to have that relatability and that understanding with my children. But also, I was studying and I really struggled. I couldn't understand the terminology. I struggled to process the information that was being explained to me. And I was really struggling. I had no confidence whatsoever with what it was that I was learning. Didn't feel adequate. I didn't feel that I was going to be able to be a counsellor. I couldn't understand what anyone was saying to me. And I really bumbled along, I think it's safe to say, for the first few years. After having a conversation with my tutor, I decided, alongside how I was feeling with supporting my children, that I was definitely going to have to go and get diagnosed. Obviously, I had to access private because that was the only option for me at the time. I'm still on the pre-waiting list for the waiting list 5 years on, and I've not still heard anything about it. And for me, gaining a diagnosis has just been a light bulb moment, a light bulb moment in my life. And I felt truly that I'd gave myself the gift of life. Suddenly, the last 30 odd years of my life made sense. And I was able to kind of add context to the struggles that I had, the inability to make friends, the inability to settle my issues around eating and my mental health. And in a sense, I guess it's probably safe to say that it's defined how I'm wanting to help and wanting to support people. But that comes from a sense of relatability. It's a different mindset. Obviously, I only have my diagnoses. There are things that I'm not going to be able to understand because I've not experienced them. But I believe that as a result of everything that I've been through, I'm able to add another level of support to an individual, the empathy, the humanity, the equality. There is nothing that, with having ADHD, for example, there was nothing that dictated that potentially I wouldn't have had issues with addiction at some stage in my life. Instead, I had issues with eating. And there are so many what ifs and whys and possibilities that I feel that I'm just blessed to be who I am. And yes, I've labeled myself. I've chosen to do that. And I'm proud of that label. I've got no shame. I've got no concerns or worries about giving my children a label, because actually I'm not labeling them because I want them to be seen as having a disability, to kind of access things, finances and stuff, which you need to have that label for, to be able to do. It's more for the fact that I want to give my children identity. I want to give my children the chance to know who they are and how they work. And so I believe that this is just who I am. The label has helped me have understanding, and I guess in a sense it's defined who I am today. And I think actually anybody's journey, anybody's life defines and molds the person that you are in this very moment in time. But I don't let it dictate my life. It doesn't dictate my future. I don't sit here today and think to myself, oh, I can't do that because of. I sit here and think, right, I know I can do it. I might have to go a slightly different way, but I'm more than able. So let's get on. I mean, I think it's quite safe to say anybody that's followed my journey over the last year, 18 months on social media, can see some of the madness that my life has portrayed over the last 18 months. And some things will work, some things won't work. But you know what, I'm going to give it a good go, because I now have that confidence that actually I'm just as able. I just need to do things a slightly different way. So yeah, I will not allow my diagnosis to define who I am and to make me feel anything other than an equal to Joe Bloggs down the road. It won't dictate to me, and it won't stop me from trying to achieve the things that I want to achieve. It's who I am, and I'm proud of that. And I'm hoping that through my journey, if my journey can help and support others to thrive and advocate for themselves and recognize their strengths or their weaknesses and how they learn, whether they're visual, auditory, kinetic. I struggle with pronouncing that word. But I think things like this, if you can understand how you learn, that makes things so much easier. So anyway, I'm going to stop because I can very easily digress into so many different avenues regarding this. But this is just a snapshot really into my journey and who I am, how I've got to this point, and how I see myself. So if this helps anybody or supports anybody on their journey, then fantastic. But also, by all means, contact me. I define myself as an ADHD coach, but more for the fact that I have such drive and a want to try and find others, well, to support others, to help find what their superpowers are, their spicy superpowers, and what helps make them the wonderful people that they are today.